Hi, welcome to the training video for 7 essential elements to a happy life. I'm so glad that you downloaded the checklist and I'm so glad that you're watching this video. I am super pumped about helping you find a happy life. So you must have answered the first 2 questions about whether or not you feel happy and fulfilled and whether or not your relationships feel easy and close. And if your answer was no to one of those, then I am the person to help you. My name is Wiggins. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I am a life and relationship strategist. And I assure you, personally and professionally, I have the resume to help you find happiness. So I'm going to walk you through the 7 essential elements. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that don't show up on the checklist. So we're just going to get into it a little more in depth. And hopefully that will help you on your path to success. So let's start off with willingness. It's one of the most important components to changing your life. And this applies to anything, whether it's changing your lifestyle to become healthier, more physically fit, or to change your diet, whether it's about changing careers or advancing your education, or whether it becomes to personal development. We have to be willing to do things outside of our comfort zone. We have to be willing to keep pushing even when we don't feel like it. And this is one of the hardest things for people to stick with, right? We buy that gym membership in January and we say, I'm gonna go! And then 3 weeks into it, we fall off. Why does that happen? Because we typically have a set point of what we're willing to live with. A certain level of mediocrity that we're okay with. And what it requires in order to break through that is to say, I'm going to ignore the message in my brain that says, you know what, I don't really need to change this. I'm fine just the way I am. And we need to embrace the idea that if we push through that and we work towards a goal, that life is going to open up even more for us, that we don't have to settle for mediocrity. That real change is really possible. So some of the things that people throw out there as excuses to why they're not able to really embrace this kind of work is time, age, money, embarrassment or vulnerability. And they use all of these things as why it's too hard to really make a commitment to doing it differently. And I think that one of the best tools that a good coach, strategist, or therapist can teach you is how to eliminate those thinking errors or distortions about why you're not really following through with things that are ultimately causing you suffering, disconnection, unhappiness. Why are you willing to settle? So it's really, really helpful to have someone be able to point out those distortions to you. It's typically things that we're rationalizing or we're justifying or we're saying, you know, meh, it'll be okay. When really, there's so much more out there for us to embrace. So willingness. If you find yourself not completely willing to give in to a program like this or to any area of your life where you want to create change, that's the first and most important place to put your energy and effort, because if you don't address the underlying problems that are blocking you there, you're likely going to fall off the wagon at some point in this process. So make sure you have a lot of support and a lot of clarity and a lot of commitment to having willingness in this process. The second thing in the essential elements to a happy life is to have a program. Why is a program important? Well, because when we articulate our goals, especially when we write them down or when we verbalize them to others, we're more likely to follow through, to have structure. A lot of times when we don't have structure, then we flail. You know, we get bored with something, or we don't know what to do next, or an idea pops into my head like, oh, I could do some journaling right now, but really it sounds like it would be more fun to go hit some balls or to go shop for shoes. So a program is something that helps keep us on track, that is laid out in steps for us so that we know what to do next. And it typically has some form of accountability, not where somebody's forcing us to do something, but where there's like that little nudge that says like, hey, how you doing with that? And are you on track? And how can I support you? And are there any blocks you want to talk through? And again, when we put those things out there, we're more likely to follow through. There was a study done many years ago about goals, and it was done with a group of students that were attending Ivy League schools. And what they did was they had one group of students write down their goals that they wanted to accomplish post-grad, and they had one group of students just identify what they were, but they didn't write them down. And then 10 years later, they went back and followed up on where those students were and whether or not they had accomplished their goals. And what they found is that the students that had written them down literally outperformed, out-earned, and just outlived their counterparts that attended the same schools. They just, and I'm sure there's other factors that were involved. I don't mean to boil it down to just this simple thing, but the idea is that there was a level of commitment, because when we put something on a paper or when we put something out there to a peer or to a coach, then all of a sudden our word is on the line. And a lot of times, most of us have an issue with not being people of our word. And so a program is one of those things that can help you really outline and stick to your goals. The third thing is vulnerability. And vulnerability is a very popular topic in pop psychology and in the world of self-help today. One of my mentors is Brene Brown, and she has really pioneered a lot of work on vulnerability and taught us that vulnerability is the opposite of weakness, which is a bias that a lot of us have in our minds. And so what it really takes in order to be happy and to have close, intimate, satisfying relationships is a willingness to be open, and not just about things that are easy to be open. I find a lot of people are like, oh, I'm an open book. I can tell you anything. It doesn't bother me. But it's the deep down dark fears, the ugly twisty places that a lot of us hold back. We hold them back in our friendships, in our relationships. We hold them back from ourselves because we don't want to look at them. They're too painful. And when we hold them back, they're limiting us and we don't even realize it. And we typically are even making them worse in our minds than they actually are. So Brene Brown talks a lot about how vulnerability does not guarantee an easy path, that in fact it guarantees that you're going to fall down, you're going to scrape your knees, you're going to feel incredible and intense discomfort. But if you're being vulnerable, if you're taking risks, it means you're in there. It means that you're in the ring and you're trying. And you may be failing, but you're showing up. And so I am here to assure you that it is going to take some trial and effort and probably some failure. But if you're willing to learn from your efforts, then there is no such thing as failure. All of a sudden it just becomes a learning opportunity. And you've just broken through to the next level of awareness and of opportunity. So lean into the discomfort and choose to be vulnerable. Sometimes I always equate vulnerability to that feeling that you're about to jump off a cliff. Like there's something I know I need to say and it's so terrifying. I swear I am jumping off like a 100-foot cliff. But once it's done and over, it's like, that wasn't that big of a deal. So I remember working through this when I was first making YouTube videos and started writing blogs. And publishing things that are very personal and close to my heart. There was, the next morning, if the blog was posted or an email had gone out, I'd be like, crap, why did I write that? But then ultimately, I'd get some feedback that said, thank you so much for sharing that. It really helped. So lean in, don't listen to the negative thoughts in your mind, and embrace vulnerability. The fourth thing to the essential elements of a happy life are to have a toolkit. And this means a working list of things that you can do that help you with stress reduction, relaxation, combating anxiety, combating the desire to give up, combating the desire to isolate, to withdraw, to not be vulnerable. And so typically one of the most important things to have in your toolkit is a list of phone numbers. And not just the list of phone numbers, but the willingness to call them. And that's because connection is what really eradicates depression and eradicates irrational thinking, and helps us to eradicate shame, also that feeling that, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Because when we talk to people and we get honest, most of the time, if we're picking safe people that aren't super, super judgmental, they're gonna say, oh my God, I can totally relate to what you're saying. And then all of a sudden our shame melts away because we realize we're not alone. So in your toolkit, the top line item is a list of people to call that are not judging you. So sometimes when I talk to people or have them in session, they're like, oh yeah, I have these people that I call. But some of those people have been some of their biggest critics in their life. And so that means new list. So create a toolkit with a list of people to call, but make sure that it's a list of people that are not critical. They accept you as you are, they're loving, they're judgmental, and they're open-minded. Also in your toolkit, you're going to want things that help you with relaxing. So whether that's taking a walk, getting outside, doing something fun, taking a bath. So these are not things, those are quick fixes or instant gratification. Some people might say playing video games or shopping. Those aren't the things that I mean by toolkit. I mean things that are going to invest in a long-term rewiring of your brain, because ultimately these 7 elements of a happy life, they are working to rewire your brain from a negative outcome predictor to a positive outcome predictor. So the tools in your kit need to be things that help support that rewiring. One of the most powerful ones, in addition to calling people, is meditation. And I know meditation is also a super popular thing these days in the world of self-help. The reason that it's so powerful is because it helps work with your prefrontal cortex, which is where we make really important decisions, where we where our attention span lives and our ability to focus on things. And so when we meditate and we strengthen the prefrontal cortex, it gives us a better ability to stay calm and to stay focused instead of having racing thoughts. So meditation is a really great thing to have in your toolkit that's going to help rewire your brain to predicting positive outcomes and feeling happier. Try things. Some things are going to work better than others. Some things are going to take more practice, but have a broad range of things that you can work with in your toolkit. The next thing in the 7 elements of a happy life is to have a tribe. And I kind of referenced this earlier in the toolkit by having a list of people to call, but a tribe is really important because our stuff, meaning our insecurities, our painful feelings, they show up in our relationships. Whether we wear a mask or whether we let it all hang out, or we get angry and we lash out, or we withdraw, all that stuff shows up inside of relationships. So when we have a tribe of people that we can practice this stuff with, that's where we can actively break the patterns and the habits in relationship with others. Believe it or not, that's some of the magic behind therapy. A therapist or a coach gets to be there and hold the space for you to practice new relationship skills and to be that non-judging, safe space, so that if you get angry, it's okay, I'm not going to criticize you. If you get scared, it's okay, I'm not going to judge you. If you get mad and you try to push me away, I can say, hey, I'm not going anywhere, I love you. And that is typically a new experience for people who have been struggling in relationships or aren't leading fulfilling lives. They don't have a lot of people in their life that are really accepting and non-judgmental. And so it's being able to practice testing those waters and saying, like, are you still going to accept me? Are you still going to love me? Are you still going to show up even when I'm having a hard time? The reason it's important to have a tribe and not just 1 or 2 people is because it's really unreasonable to have too many expectations on 1 or 2 people to always be able to show up for us. It puts a lot of pressure. So a lot of times, especially in couples or in best friends, the couple or the 2 best friends, they rely heavily on each other, and then when one or the other isn't available, then there becomes feelings of abandonment or resentment, like you weren't there when I needed me, and when I needed you, sorry. And that puts more pressure on the relationship, and it reinforces the feeling that I'm not worth it, instead of recognizing that, no, it was really just too much of an expectation on one or two people. So find a tribe. And that means going out and exploring. It means being vulnerable and being open to building new relationships, and learning how to spot people that are safe, meaning that aren't super judgmental and aren't super critical. So there's a lot of great places that you can look for tribes. Some of them are group therapy or 12-step meetings. And there's a 12-step meeting for just about anything out there. And it can be a really powerful experience. Even if you don't believe in God, don't let that dissuade you. It's a group of people that are going to understand you and relate to you and are going to be happy to give you their phone number. You might find a meetup group of people who have things in common. You might find a spiritual place of worship that is got a lot of supportive people that are willing to give out their phone number. There's a lot of great places where you can find tribes. You just have to be willing to look and learn. So get yourself a tribe. The next thing in the list of 7 elements to a happy life is to develop an identity. So now we're getting into some of the really complex internal issues. And trust me, I listed these 7 things in order for a reason. The identity is one of the things that comes further along in the process. But a lot of times, if we're not living a happy and fulfilled life and our relationships don't feel connected or loving, it's because we've lost ourselves in some ways. And it's time to reclaim your true nature, your true identity. And sometimes that can be really scary because we get afraid that if I really stand in my truth or how I feel or what I believe, I might lose someone that I love or multiple people that I love. So this is especially true for people who are trying to find their way in a system that has a really specific closed set of beliefs. So your family might have a really specific closed set of beliefs, or the culture that you grew up in, your friend group, your partner. And so it's really important to be aware, what are the beliefs of the people around me that are influencing me? Do I agree with them? Do I have my own beliefs? How safe do I feel to express those and to be my true self, even if the people around me don't agree with me? And can I learn to disagree without having to end or break a relationship? And so these are some of the things to consider in developing an identity. It's about really getting to know yourself separate from the people that are around you and in your life and that have previously influenced you. And that's something that really takes some practice. I recommend typically doing a lot of self-exploration to do that. Journaling, getting in touch with your higher self. So like in meditation or something like that, where you become peaceful and quiet and you can listen to what is it that your heart and your mind are saying to yourself. And starting to embrace the idea that it's okay if people don't approve of who I truly am. I'm going to stand in that truth anyways and trust that it is going to pay off greatly in having a happy life. And I can attest to that the more I have embraced who I am and just said, hey, this is me. Faults, talents, gifts, problems. I'm human just like you. Yes, I'm a therapist. I'm trained. I'm skilled, but I'm still a person. I'm still human. I still make mistakes. The more I attract people to me that are drawn to that type of openness, that type of warmth. And now I no longer feel tempted to put on a front or a mask or to try to impress people or to be perfect, because that just sets up a scenario for me to attract people to me who are also wearing masks, and then we don't feel connected. So it takes time, but the more that you can develop and embrace your own identity, the closer you are going to feel to everyone, including like the checkout person at the grocery store. So that's a really good feeling. It helps a lot with people who feel social anxiety or awkward in social settings. A lot of times it's because it's a lack of self-confidence, which brings us to the final and 7th essential element to a happy life, and that is to have a strong rooted sense of worth. And This is not something that just comes overnight. It's the 7th step for a reason. And this idea of self-worth really comes as a result of following through with the other 6 things consistently. As you do all of those other 6 things, you're going to have learned things about yourself, you're going to have practiced things, you're going to have met people, you're going to have practiced, did I already say that? I don't know. And you'll have gotten feedback that's going to feel good. You're going to get feedback that doesn't feel so good also, but you're going to learn that it feels good to be you and that you are the gift. And that's the most important thing that I want you to hear today on this video. You are the gift. Dr. Seuss said it beautifully. There is no one, I don't know exactly how he said it, there's no one on this earth that's youer than you. And that is the truth. And if you are striving to be anyone other than yourself, if you are striving to impress your boss, your parent, your partner, your friend, your child, you are removing the gift from this earth. You are the gift. And when you can embrace that idea that it is literally your true nature that is going to make this world a better place, that feels powerful. And it no longer feels like I am sad and depressed and I don't have anything to offer and I am small and I am alone. All of a sudden, if I believe that I'm a gift, if you believe that you're the gift, then you want to share that gift and you want to be a part of the world. And all of a sudden things feel possible. And so I know it sounds like, oh, I'm sharing these 7 things with you and oh, that's lovely, Dawn, but I'm a hot mess or my life sucks. I get it. It takes time. And it does take time. It took time for me to get to this place, to know that I am the gift. And that one of the things that gives me the greatest joy in life is to share my gift with you. Because I want to perpetuate hope. I want to perpetuate love. I want you to know what's possible. If I've done it, you can do it. And I can be here by your side to help you. So thank you so much for tuning in and for taking the time. Honor yourself for investing in yourself enough to watch this video, to consider doing what it takes to live a happy life. It means that there's something inside of you that knows there's more, and I know you can tap into that, and I know you can reach your potential. Have a beautiful day.